Today I'm going to be talking about my experience with food storage and emergency preparedness. I think everyone in the church has different experiences. I think there are people that were a lot more extreme than me and people that didn't even care about this stuff. This is just my story. Growing up in Mormonism, for me, there were lots of messages of food storage and emergency preparedness. Sometimes it was taught to us as the world's getting crazy and wicked and you need to be prepared for anything. And other times it was taught to us like this is part of preparing for the second coming and you've got to be ready because it's going to be doomsday. I have a lot of memories of my mom stockpiling food. We had this room in our house that had shelving up to the ceiling all around, and she would fill it with cans of food and jars, dry ingredients like bags of flour, bags of sugar, like cutlery and paper plates, and she even had a storage of personal hygiene stuff. I also have childhood memories of my dad going through this room probably every 5 years and throwing almost everything away and being really upset because my dad was the breadwinner in our house and that was a lot of his hard-earned money that he's like just seen be thrown away. So yeah, I remember that not being very pleasant. As an adult, food storage was difficult for a few reasons. One, I didn't want to be wasteful. Two, I didn't like most of the food that keeps for a long time. But when you hear about it all the time and you're not doing it, that induces a lot of guilt and shame. So as an adult, I still participated in food storage. What I did is I made this huge list of all the things that I would actually eat. So I did not buy wheat that you have to grind by yourself when you don't own a grinder. And I didn't buy a bunch of dry beans. Well, I bought a few dry beans. And because we were poor, it was hard to stockpile food because we were barely getting enough food to eat. What I did is every time I went to the store, I wrote down the prices. And then in the notes, I wrote which stores were the cheapest. And if I ever found a lower price, I would mark it on my notes so that I could make sure that when I was buying a can of green beans, like if we needed a can of green beans, I would be able to tell if it was a good price or not. So I'd also go through the grocery store, and if there was a good price, I have these other columns where I wrote how many we would use in a year. And then I would look at the expiration date, and if it wouldn't expire in 3 years, I would buy however many I thought we were going to use times 3. And so sometimes I'd leave the grocery store with like 2 carts full of like canned goods. And every house we lived in, we had a space, whether that be a closet or a storage room or a bedroom, where we had the shelving, and I would organize it just right. And I was a stickler for like putting the new things in back and pushing everything else forward to try and make sure that nothing expires. But no matter how careful I was about this, stuff expires. Like our taste evolves over time. Like I remember I bought a ton of pineapple, but then when we started having kids, and I had kids back to back for 5 years, I could not eat pineapple when I was pregnant. So, 5 years later, I'm throwing away cases of pineapple because I thought that I would eat a lot of pineapple. I didn't know that when I was pregnant, I wasn't going to be eating pineapple. Let's see what else is on this list, because as I went through, I'd like cross things off. So, okay, here's one. Like I crossed off potato flakes. We used to eat, whenever we wanted mashed potatoes, we would use potato flakes. But then one day, my mother-in-law made me real mashed potatoes, and potato flakes was ruined for me forever. All those potato flakes I had bought, like, don't need them anymore, don't want them anymore. There were times I was able to catch these things early and donate this food to a food pantry so it didn't go to waste. But there's other times that I didn't catch these things and was wasteful, the thing that I had set out not to be. I think whenever you buy more than you need or a bunch of excess, or you buy something with intentions to do it in the future, that it doesn't like always happen. It does set you up for being wasteful. Also, as we've grown up, we've really got into fresh food. Like, food tastes better when it's fresh, and it's better for you when it's fresh. So instead of canned green beans now, we mostly eat fresh green beans. And so it's hard to have a food storage when you're eating fresh. You know, it is easier having a garden. And Mormons can really be into gardening too. Anyway, so remember in the beginning when I told you everyone's experience was different? I remember the first time my husband came to my house that I grew up in and went into our storage room. He was like, this is like a mini grocery store. It looks like a grocery store with the shelving all full of food and all lined up. And we had a can roller where you take a can out and a new can rolls down. And we had a deep freezer with all these different frozen choices. Well, he was like, this is like a grocery store. Like, you have a grocery store in your house. I remember that was his reaction. I will say the great thing about having food storage, when we were poor, it relieved some of my anxiety. I always knew we had at least 3 months of food. But like I said, now mostly we just like to eat fresh. And so it is nice to just go and get what you need and leave what other people need so other people can have what they need. I think there's something to be said for that. Anyway, I hope you guys had fun listening about my food storage. Tell me what your experiences were with food storage down in the comments. While you're down there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I had a ton of fun. Thanks for coming today. I'll see you next time. Until then, keep your world great and spacious. See ya. I think most of us grew up with wheat that we never ate.